Hello. Brilliant. Thank you for coming. Really do appreciate it. My name's Rob. I'm the founder of an organization called Protect the Wild. Has anyone heard of us? I'm sort of intrigued. Okay, good. So yeah, we're a British wildlife protection organization. We're anti-hunt, anti-shoot, anti-cull. Basically, any form of wildlife persecution or suffering or killing of any British wild animal, we oppose it, we expose it, and we do everything within our legal means to shut it down and bring it to an end. We have undercover investigations, we obviously produce animations, we do report writing, research, journalism, lobbying, demos, anything that's legal, we do it. We're probably unique in the wildlife protection space in the sense of we're pretty much the only wildlife protection organization with proper vegan principles. I left uni and was pissed off at seeing all of these so-called conservation groups and charities having preference for certain mammals at the preference of every other living being. And I realized I felt like an outlier within the wildlife protection space, which just felt ridiculous. It felt the more that I had actual animal rights principles, the more distance I felt within the space and with other groups. So that's why I set up Protect the Wild. And yeah, today we're going to be looking at how we've used animations over the last year or so to just really transform our organization. So yeah, if we go on to the next slide. So it all started back in 2021. We had undercover investigators go to the Duke of Beaufort hunt. This is one of the most prestigious hunts in the entire country. Now, their kennels are surrounded by 10-foot high walls, and we were quite intrigued. What are they hiding behind these walls? So the investigators scaled them at 3 a.m., put cameras up, and this is what we exposed and found.
A hunting hound is about to be put down. Nothing like this has been filmed before. For many, it is controversial. The member of the prestigious Beaufort hunt staff eventually gets the dog into position before lining up the pistol and pulling the trigger. A few moments later, the hound is taken away, still moving. In another video, a hound has to be shot twice, 3 minutes apart. For those responsible for bringing this footage into the public domain, the videos are disturbing.
These hounds are nothing but working animals to this hunt. They're tools, and when they're not fit for purpose, not strong enough, not fit enough to keep up with the pack, they're brutally shot in the head and killed and thrown away like garbage. And it's utterly disgusting. It's morally indefensible.
Hunting hounds are hard-working, and as the Beaufort hunt told us, managing the end of their life is not as simple as it seems. Occasionally, hounds are successfully retired as domestic pets, but they are not house-trained and have only ever been used to living in a pack environment, so the majority are unfortunately unsuitable for rehoming. Where other options are not available, hounds are humanely euthanized. One MP told us she thinks an injection to end life might be a better option.
I don't understand why a dog, albeit I recognise these are defined as working dogs, needs to be euthanized in this way. And I'm sure that there are much more compassionate ways of putting a dog to sleep.
Of course, many people will see this footage as being shocking, but perhaps that's because we, as a society, have become entirely desensitised to some of the realities of rural life. Hunt supporters think it helps to see hunting hounds as working animals.
Like a farmer with livestock, they have to look after them at that scale, and that means taking really difficult decisions. It means doing that horrible job at the end of their working lives.
But a vet we showed the footage to disputes that hunting hounds are somehow closer to livestock than domestic pets. And he believes the system needs greater regulation.
Well, that's completely inaccurate. Hounds are dogs, and therefore they should be regulated as dogs. And when they're commercial, there should be full veterinary involvement for health and welfare.
Animal welfare campaigners, including celebrity Ricky Gervais, are appalled. He told us, "It is so deeply upsetting that foxhounds are trained to hunt foxes, and when they catch them, rip them to pieces. Then they are killed, usually by a shot to the head. Both the hound and the fox become the victim of this cruelty. It's insane. Having seen now for the first time how hunting hounds are put down, the debate is whether this is the way to do it. Rupert Evelyn, News at 10, Gloucestershire.
So, you might be thinking, what am I moaning about? We've got nationwide press coverage, the likes of Ricky Gervais talking about it. It was on the 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock ITV News. Brilliant. Thanks to Rupert Evelyn, who wanted to cover it. But what all of this exposed, and the problem we had, was when we actually put this footage on social media. If we go to the next slide, the engagement and numbers weren't that great. We put it on Instagram. We showed the moment of the gun being fired, and they just blacklisted it, and they removed it from the platform entirely. The same happened on Twitter, and it meant that we had to water down what actually took place. We had to rely on imagery, which is not as shocking, and it didn't actually portray what had taken place. And I was frustrated, and I realized long-term as a strategy, I don't think it's successful to rely on the likes of the ITV News and the media and legacy organizations to give you that coverage. You need to try and produce and make your own platforms and ensure you are able to get the message out to your own audience. So that's where the dilemma and the problem, we came to the solution in the form of animations. So it was a huge weak point. It's all very well having so many followers across our social media channels, but if when we posted it, people weren't seeing it, that was a major issue. I mean, we've had other undercover work, which I'm sure many of the people here today have been involved in projects, and the media promise you so much, and then it gets to the point where there's other conflicts around the world or other big stories, and they say, sorry, we can't really give you that airtime, and you've wasted months of all of this work. And then at that point, you're just relying on your own social media to get it out. But if the algorithms are against us and you're not allowed to show suffering to the extent of what was seen in those clips, then we've got a major problem. So the solution, of course, was animation. So a few months after this undercover investigation, I came across a guy called Ben Sinclair. He'd produced an animation for the group Melbourne Hunt Saboteurs. It was utterly brilliant, beautiful visual, great storytelling. I knew immediately we needed to work with him in some capacity. I think in the next slide, we show a clip from the film.
Yet one canine is treated very differently. The fox. In 1871, a small number of red foxes were snatched from the UK countryside and shipped across the globe to one of the most distant British colonies.
So I did then reach out to Ben. If we go to the next one, and we go along to, so I reached out to the animator and we teamed up. I said to him, look, we've got this major issue still. Most people have no idea what so-called trail hunting is. We've got a real education problem on our hands. At that point in time, the political situation was a lot different. The amount of press coverage was nowhere near what it is today on the issue of hunting. We had to get these issues out to as many people as possible in a different way, in a more engaging, entertaining fashion. So this is the film that we then produced, narrated by Chris Packham.
The countryside. A world of tranquility and serenity. A state of peace that should have been maintained since the 2004 ban on hunting wild mammals. Yet this peace is never certain for some animals, namely the fox. Since 2004, hunts have claimed to be enjoying a cruelty-free version of hunting. Trail hunting. In this version, the hound hounds and the huntsman are to pursue a human-laid trail made from an artificial fox scent that's dragged across fields and hedgerows. But how do we know what really goes on during these hunts? Why are hunt saboteurs still having to intervene after 17 years? During a decade-long study, hunt monitors reported that only 1% of so-called trail hunts lay a potentially genuine trail. And even on the slim chance that they do, the concept of trail hunting as a cruelty-free alternative is inherently flawed. From a young age, hounds are brainwashed into ruthlessly hunting down the smell of a fox. And so, whilst following the trail into the depths of the fox's habitat, they will, unsurprisingly, find a real scent. How can we expect this not to happen? Of course, the hunt may claim it's accidental, but they know it will happen. And with the smokescreen of trail hunting behind them, they know they can get away with a real kill. The fox's only hope is to find refuge underground. Whilst this may seem like safety, the arrival of the hunt's last act confirms they were never intending to hunt a trail. The Terrier Man. In the same decade-long study, saboteurs and monitors have observed terrier men in 78% of trail hunts. And despite the heroic efforts by saboteurs to intervene and record this brutality to the police, time and time again, the smokescreen of trail hunting continues to let hunts get away with it in court. But now we've come to a turning point. After 17 years of inaction from the authorities, saboteurs needed to battle through the smokescreen and gather evidence from the very top of the hunting community. The Hunting Office. In 2020, they got just that. 3 online Zoom webinars run by the office were leaked, revealing a nationwide conspiracy to strengthen and continue the smokescreen of trail hunting.
It's a lot easier to create a smokescreen if you've got more than one trail layer in operation. And that's what it's all about. Trying to portray to people watching that you're going about your legitimate business.
Terrier work. This is our soft underbelly. A lot of people would say that if you're going trail hunting, why do you need terrier men following you around? Just to bear that one in mind.
Approximately now 2 seasons ago, we were hunting a very popular meat. We'd been infiltrated by some 40 to 50 hunt saboteurs. And it was at that point that we decided we should revert to Plan B. Plan B being obviously using our team to lay trails for the rest of the day. This wasn't about turning the old Surrey, Burstow and West Kent into a trail-laying pack. It was about giving us the support and protection that we needed.
As a result of these leaks, the National Trust has banned hunting on their land. But the hunts are still at it. Landowners across the country still allow trail hunting to happen. And allowing trail hunting to continue is allowing fox hunting to continue. Love and respect for the natural world is needed now more than ever. And so we must say goodbye to traditions that value the torture of animals for sport. We can protect the next generation of wildlife and let the peace return to our beloved British countryside.
Right, next slide. So going into this, I'm going to be brutally honest. It was a risk. It was a bit of a gamble. I was sitting there thinking, is this just a bit of a gimmick? Should we really be experimenting with what is essentially an art form when we were so young as an organization? We didn't have that much money, and it was stressful at the time when it was being produced. But the key takeaways were, for things like this to be successful, ultimately it boils down to how you convert people that are angry and emotional at the end of that into actually joining your organization and powering you long term. And in order to do that, we had a petition calling for stronger anti-hunting legislation. Off the back of it, 30,000 people signed that petition in the 2 days after it was released. We didn't have we'd had no ad spend, it was all organic. We had 10,000 new people added to our mailing list. At the time, we only had about 2,000, and it took us months to gradually grind to that point. So within a few days, we had the start of essentially a small organization off the back of a single animated film, which was incredible. It was a real learning curve. It was like, shit, doing things like art can really have an impact, and it can really grow an organization. It was quite incredible. So if we go to the next slide, the key takeaways are that for an animation to be successful, it was obvious it needed to tick 3 main boxes. Obviously, it needs to be seen by as many people as possible. That film, I think now is around 800,000 views, the one you've just seen, which was brilliant. But it's no good having loads of people seeing something if you don't have an actual tangible call to action at the end of it. I mean, hopefully you watched that, and at the end you felt something. You felt passionate, empowered, angry, upset, pissed off, emotional. It's about how do we utilize and make those feelings work and turn them into action. You need to have a clear, simplistic call to action at the end. Annoyingly, we cut off and didn't show the thing saying sign the petition, and then ensuring people are steered into joining the mailing list. Of course, we had a sign-in box and you can tick it, and then we got a third of those people that signed the petition then joined the mailing list, which was huge, absolutely huge for us. So next slide. So circling back then, with the Foxhounds, how does this relate to that first undercover investigation? So the film we've just seen was our first animation. It was sort of an experiment, a test, and it clearly worked quite well. So we thought, why don't we create an animation around the whole hound investigation story, especially focusing on one particular dog? So during the undercover investigation, a dog named Scamp by undercover investigators at the time was what we think to be only 4 or 5 years old. In the field, this dog was essentially too playful. It wasn't old, it wasn't ill. There was absolutely no reason for this particular dog to be put down and shot dead, other than the fact that the hunt was getting annoyed that it was just wanting to be a dog and wanting to play too much. It's just awful. It was disgusting. So we decided to create a stop motion piece with the same animator, telling the story of Scamp, the forgotten foxhound. So yeah, I'll play this piece now.
Time to hunt! Come on! Scamp! It's always the same bloody dog. Get in the trailer. It's time to hunt. We've got a stand! Come on, keep up with the pack! Tally all! Over here! Got a box! Hey, get on it, Scamp!
Young foxhounds are killed each year for failing to be good hunters. Please back Protect the Wild's petition for a proper ban on hunting, not only for the foxes, but for the hounds too.
Nice. And this animation has now been seen by, I think, about over 7 million people. So the initial footage showing the exact same stuff peaked up 6,000 or 7,000 views because the algorithms didn't like it. If you're scrolling on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, and something comes up with a caption saying, "This dog is shot dead," you're not going to watch it. You're not going to want to share it with your mum or a family member and say, "Hey, can you watch this footage of a dog being put down?" But with something like this, we were able to turn a shocking graphic incident into something people were happy to spend the entire minute watching because it's palatable. There's a degree of shareability. You're able to share it with a friend or a family member without feeling uncomfortable about distressing them, but we're able to still put across exactly what happened and ensuring we have the still image of proof at the end too. And of course, it had a huge impact again for us as an organization as a result. If we go to the next one. So, our other animations. Off the back of this one and the success, we really doubled down big time. I decided that the animator, who at that point was freelance, and we had an informal relationship and we're paying per piece, I brought him in-house. I now employ him full-time as an animator for Protect the Wild because of just how much impact and the numbers and how much it's been driving us as an organization. And we've produced over a dozen animations at this point. I think it's now about 14. And the views of those are circa around 50, 60 million views. And that's with no ad spend at all. And that's been achieved in 14 months. It really goes to show what can be done when you produce content specific for each platform and you make content entertaining. I think as an animal rights movement, we're not great at producing stuff that's entertaining, which seems a weird thing to say, and it feels bad saying it because of how disgusting and cruel these industries are and the suffering that's happening. But I don't think that we're delivering it in the best way. There's still a place for undercover work. There's still a place for showing the disgusting stuff that's happening, and we do it. We do undercover work ourselves. We've got undercover stuff underway at the moment. But I think something that frustrates me is I don't see content that's being made that's entertaining. People are on social media for two main reasons: for a dopamine hit and for a distraction. I mean, I don't know how many people on here go on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram consciously thinking, yeah, I want to educate myself in this half an hour time I'm spending on this app when you're in bed mindlessly scrolling. You're not there to do that. You're not in the headspace of wanting to be upset or triggered or think about other issues outside of your own life. But what things like these animations do is they provide entertainment, and that's not a bad thing. And through entertainment, you can then deliver impactful messaging. We see it through shows like Adolescence on Netflix and the Post Office Scandal. They were able to convey hard-hitting, awful things that have happened in the world and are going on, but through an entertaining way. And that's what we try and deliver through our animations. So if we go to the next one. So yeah, I thought it'd be good to show you a few of the animations that we have worked on over the last year or so. First up is a film on hair coursing that we produced.
I had no idea something so cruel could take place in the British countryside. Sick people live stream hair coursing, pitting dogs against each other to kill an iconic British species. Gamblers watching the carnage bet thousands on which dog will kill first, chasing an innocent life with nowhere to hide. Just to profit from the suffering. Sign the petition for a proper ban on all hunting with dogs.
I think what's worth me pointing out too, this particular piece was narrated by the actress Poppy Lee Fryer, who has about 150,000 followers on Instagram, but an audience that might not necessarily be thinking about animals or veganism. We deliberately try and partner every single animation with a celeb or an influencer of some kind for broader reach. We try and target people who we find out might be vegan, but their feeds aren't talking about these issues, to get it out of the echo chamber as much as possible. And this was a good example of that. Our next film, I don't know if people know the band Architects. They're fairly well known. One of their members, Sam Carter, is a vegan, is a bit of an activist, but on his Instagram feed, you wouldn't know it at all. We found out that he is someone that actually cares about animals. We got in touch. We're able to show him the success of previous animations. And I think, it sounds bad to say, but I think a lot of celebs and people in the space, they want nice, highly produced, entertaining things on their feed. And this will sound probably mental, but we realized Sam Carter's Instagram feed has a theme. It was a very black and white theme. We knew if we specifically made an animation in a more black and white style that fit his look on his profile, that he'd be more likely to accept and be willing to do it because it fits his brand. So we deliberately produced the next piece in that style to fit that person's brand. And yeah, this next particular piece again it's on over, I think, 14 million on YouTube organically in views. Did ridiculous numbers for us. Had a huge number of people seeing it. The retention was super high. And yeah, we collaborated with him on Instagram with this particular next film.
I thought it was just hunts that killed foxes, until I heard about the shooting industry, who releases 40 million pheasants into the countryside every year, just to be shot. And it blames foxes for taking some of them. So it employs gamekeepers to wage war on foxes. Thousands and thousands of foxes are killed in snares. And dumped like trash in stink pits. When hunts kill foxes, they're breaking the law. When shoots kill foxes, that's just part of business.
You may have realized we did a similar intro to that film, to the hair coursing one. We introduced it with I thought this, I had no idea about X, to try and put the viewer in a similar spot to the person presenting, and not us as an organization putting across these issues like we know it all and this is what's going on. We like to tell the story from the same perspective as the viewer who may be watching it, who also has no clue. And we're starting to gradually pick up on these little things as we went along, and realizing we needed immediate action in the first 3 seconds. We've got no time to mess around with nice fancy intros. People want and require immediate action, so they're not just scrolling by and ignoring what you're putting out there. So yeah, we also did this next piece on the act of bagging foxes to be hunted.
It just makes it so much easier if we've already got one bagged and ready to go. All right, everyone ready?
The bagged fox, a medieval insurance policy for modern day hunting. Please sign the petition for a proper ban on hunting with dogs.
I must give a shout out to Chris Packham, who we endlessly not use, but ask as sort of our backup for sort of everything at this point. And he immediately will be like in some hotel and premiering on the other side of the country and record a voice note. Very much appreciated. I think with these pieces, another interesting point, the art of this going on, it's so hard to film. I know people like Glenn that are out in the field know, and you, Charlotte, understand that this is happening, but it's impossible to show it and film. How do you get to the location? Getting the info of this happening is near impossible. Animation allows you to show what's happening at times when you're not able to get that footage, but know things are occurring. And of course, you have complete direction over the storyboard, the control of exactly what you're showing. The limitations of undercover work or filming in the field is you're limited by what happens on the day. There's so many things you can't control. I love animations because you're able to have complete ownership over exactly how you shape the narrative. So that's another interesting thing to mention. And we have also worked on several animations focusing on the badger cull as well. If we go to the next one, I thought, seeing as we're at this conference, this would be a good one to show.
Badgers are being killed to protect the dairy industry. Learn more and help us end the badger cull today.
So we go to the next slide. So to wrap up a little bit, at this point, we're over the 40 million views mark. It's clear that art can be impactful. It's not just a bit of a novelty and a fancy thing to throw some money at. It has essentially been the backbone of me being able to create the organization that I've created today. 4 years ago, it was just me, one member of staff, £0 in the bank, had no loans, no financial help. Gradually, we're grinding, and through being able to produce these animations and the mailing list we've built up as a result of them, that's how we've got to the point we are today. There's 12 members of staff. Our output extends beyond animations, and we do so much as an organization. I'm so proud of that. And our mailing list is now over 100,000, and 60,000 of those emails have come directly just because of animations, which, yeah, blows my mind thinking about it too. It really goes to show the power of producing entertaining content in order to get people into your organization. And then obviously from that, you can educate them, talk to them about what's going on to other wildlife, ask them for money and donations. And then you can build so much off the back of it as a result. So we go to the next slide. So far I've been talking a lot about views, numbers, how many people have seen stuff, and it's all very well being able to boast about all these millions of people saw this one, or these number have seen this one. But have we actually had tangible successes? Have we actually won anything for animals? Have we had specific campaigns built on the animations, and have we actually had any wins? Because vaguely saying loads of people saw something isn't really good enough. It's not proof that we're actually winning or achieving anything. So the next few slides hopefully will demonstrate how we've had tangible, actual, real wins for animals as a result of specific animations we've made. So first one, our campaign on the MOD to stop licensing trail hunting. We produced this animation on the left, which was seen by a fair few number of people, again narrated by Chris Packham. We launched a petition. It got around 40 to 50,000 signatures, where people were directed to email the Minister of Defence at the time. And over the last few years, we've been doing a lot of work on this particular campaign, and the flagship piece of content for it was very much that animation. It was seen by a huge number of people, and brilliantly, we're now at a point where there are no trail hunt licenses taking place on MOD land. I'm not claiming complete ownership or success for this. So many other groups have been involved with campaigning on this for years. The SAB groups on the ground, you know, Salisbury monitors, but we definitely had an impact in this particular campaign, which was really good to see. If we go to the next one, this is the piece we made.
Fox hunting was made illegal in 2004. The Ministry of Defence is the last major landowner still allowing so-called trail hunting on their land. Allowing trail hunting is allowing fox hunting. It's time for the MOD to realise their potential and stop supporting fox hunting. Please take action and sign our petition to the MOD today.
So that was one win. We then had another one, semi sort of win, in the form of this pressure campaign. We go to the next one. So I don't know if anyone here has ever heard of the Newton Somerset. It's a really prestigious, wanky hotel in the southwest, owned by this nasty billionaire bloke. And essentially every single year, this awful hotel that attracts the likes of the Beckhams and the Royals hosts one of the most prestigious hunts in the country, one of the most awful hunts, or I shouldn't say prestigious, the BSV hunt. They're known quite widely within the anti-hunt space as being the worst, really, for the amount of killing going on and just how blatant they are. They're a horrific hunt. And the Newton Somerset hosts what's known as a lawn meet, where they essentially wine and dine them in front of the hotel. We saw images of this and we thought this was ridiculous. In modern Britain, an establishment like this that says all this bollocks around we care about the environment and they try and be all right on, we're allowing one of the worst hunts, not just any hunt either, one of probably the worst hunts in the entire country on their land and in surrounding areas to hunt on. So we contacted them and had no reply. They completely ignored us, no surprise there. So we decided to make a specific animation for this particular campaign. I was actually inspired by Tom Harris last year at this very conference when he gave a talk talking about small pressure campaigns and getting wins is so important and building from small targets all the way up to the bigger ones. And I left last year's conference feeling so energized and motivated, and it gave me the inspiration to really go big on this particular target. So we made a film, we did a protest outside. That was the Chelsea Flower Show. The headline sponsor of the Flower Show this year was the Newton Somerset. So I was stood there every day for 7 hours at the front gates holding that. Obviously had some lovely comments directed my way as a result of that. We had supporters get involved. So it was a campaign tying in animation, of course, as well as actually on the ground action. We were able to give out, I think, 9,000 leaflets. About 1 in 4 of all attendees were given a leaflet with an image of that saying, this is the sponsor, this is what they support. It felt brilliant to educate so many people about this particular organization. If we go to the next one, we may have the film, hopefully, of this. There we go.
The Newt in Somerset hosts the Blackmoor and Sparkford Vale hunt before they go off to hunt foxes for fun. They recently said no hunt of any type is scheduled, but will still not commit to a ban. Please join us in asking the Newt to stand up for wildlife, set an example, and ban all hunts from their land for good.
So with this one, whilst we've got a sort of half-assed commitment saying no hunts are scheduled and we didn't get a ban, it then inspired us to launch an entire website campaign off the back of it. We realized, shit, there must be loads of hotels, pubs, businesses that are supporting hunts nationwide. We then launched a website called bloodbusiness.info. If you go on the site, it's brilliant. It lists pretty much, not every, but over 1,000 companies in the UK that in some way support the hunting or shooting of wild animals. So if you care about not inflicting suffering on wildlife and you're anti-hunt, anti-shoot, it's a brilliant place to stay informed about all the businesses across the country who are sadly supporting those industries. We want to aim to get to the point where virtually every pro-hunt and pro-shoot business is listed, and to name and shame every single one of them so people can make their own informed decisions about whether they want to spend money with them. And that campaign led to that website being made because we felt dissatisfied with not getting the win that we wanted from that one. So next up, we have the hound shooting animation. So what actually happened since the animation went out? That animation, of course, I talked about it getting millions of views. Well, it inspired us to do a whole range of work specifically on hound welfare. Charlotte, my colleague, I've now brought in, she works specifically just on research on the welfare of these animals. We got in touch with Lisa, who brilliantly rescued 2 foxhounds and lives with them, and is living proof and example that these hounds can be domesticated. They can live happy lives. They don't need to be shot dead. And we're tirelessly campaigning on this and ensuring that a proper spotlight is put on these animals, because they're dogs, but they're used as tools to brutally chase and tear apart wildlife. It's disgusting. And so it's brilliant that we're doing this work. We're launching a huge report specifically on the welfare of these animals that will be due out in the next few months. So yeah, we're really doubling down on this, and we continue to expose as many different incidents as we can concerning these animals. We're looking to log and document every single case where a Hunt Sabre monitor group has witnessed any mistreatment, abuse, hounds stuck in barbed wire, neglected, abandoned, to really demonstrate how hunting is not just toxic for wildlife, it's toxic for the animals they use and exploit to kill wildlife too. So that's something that we've built upon as a result of that animation long term, which is really good. And we're really closing in on hunting now as a movement. We are winning. We're getting to the point where in the next few years, it's very likely we will see a ban on so-called trail hunting, which is brilliant. The film at the start, we talked about all the major landowners who still allow it. Virtually all of them now don't allow trail hunting on their land. They've all turned their backs on it. We're winning on this one. With hunting, in a few years, we're going to be pretty much at the point, hopefully, where it is dead and buried, which is brilliant. I'm rambling a bit. Next slide. Our animations on the badger cull. We've done 5 at this point. A few of them were before Labour got into power. A few of them were after. And we've had a mixed degree of success. I'm sure many of you may be aware that the badger cull is still continuing. The Labour government has said it might continue until 2029, which is just ridiculous. They're refusing to look at the science. You look at the numbers, the TB rates in cattle are the same as what they were a decade ago. And that's after 250,000 badgers have now been killed. The reality is farmers don't want to look at themselves and realise that the reason why TB spread is happening amongst cattle is because of horrific biosecurity measures, because they're walking around in each other's feces. A recent Brian May documentary, which some of our undercover footage featured in, proved just that. It showed that the main spread and reason for TB being a problem in cattle is because of the awful conditions on farms, because of overcrowding, because of the complete neglect farmers have for these cattle, which they just see as profit symbols. It's disgusting, and our animations have been trying to expose all of these different elements of that. They've been seen millions of times. I think they did have an impact on pressuring the Labour government to commit to working to end the badger cull. So before the election, in their manifesto, they did state that the badger cull is ineffective and they're working to end it, which is some sort of step in the right direction, but we're still a long way from it being ended for good. We've got a government petition that's nearing 100,000. It'd be great if you can sign that today and help us get there, get this debated in Parliament. But we name and shame anyone and everyone who is doing anything that is destructive to animals, and we've really put it to Labour. We just don't give a shit. I guess it's helpful that we're an outside press group. We can do that. I realise a lot of other groups try and play the inside game, and they have to be seen to be working with these parties. But we're able to be that radical flank in the wildlife space, and we make sure those in power are called out for their actions. We may have our most recent animation that was released 2 weeks ago on this that does a good job of portraying what I've just said there.
The Labour Party has betrayed badgers. Despite pledging to end the badger cull, this government is ignoring the science and continuing the same Tory policy of needless slaughter. Where's the change that we were promised? Sign our petition to end the badger cull for good. Thank you.
So, yeah, we may not be the Labour Party's biggest fans once they see stuff like that. I do appreciate. It's great that Chris is willing to put his voice to something that is so critical of the current government. We're at that point now where we just don't give a shit. We're so pissed off with this government and their lack of inaction on wildlife. It honestly feels like we're still living under a Tory government. It's that bad. I had a degree of hope going into the election that things would change and that we would see a positive direction being taken for animals, but we're not seeing it at all. So that was a desperation animation of anger, sort of. Right, next one. Quickly wrap up now. Animations on hunting. I've sort of covered it just previously, but generally speaking, as a movement, we're winning on this one. Politically, it's toxic. In the media, you see reports more than ever on the issue of hunting. I think we've, through animations, been able to really help bring this to a mainstream audience. Obviously, the views are great. As an organization, we're over 1 million followers on social media now. It's becoming the norm, and celebs and politicians are distancing themselves from hunting as a thing. I mean, back in 2015, David Cameron wanted to give MPs a free vote on repeal of the Hunting Act. In 2017, Theresa May publicly said to ITV, I support fox hunting, which now feels absurd that you'd get a sitting prime minister in front of the press and to the public even saying anything like that. We've got our opponents now desperately clinging on to trail hunting and saying, no, we are definitely laying trails, and they realise that's all they've got left. They're desperate, and we are in the knowledge that in the next few years, Labour are going to sort their act out. They have committed to banning trail hunting in their manifesto, which is brilliant. It seems that they're willing to be as radical as us on this issue. They want to see it ended, and they are committing both publicly and behind the scenes that there is something they are taking seriously. It will be added to the parliamentary agenda in the next couple of years. We will see a ban on trail hunting. We will see exemptions in the Hunting Act removed, and I think we will see the end of hunting sooner rather than later, which is brilliant. And as us as an organisation will then have to pivot to other issues. Obviously, the bird shooting industry, the badger cull, all other forms of wildlife persecution. Wildlife have it bad in this country. They're killed and abused and treated like shit. They have no economic value. Our relationship with nature is so it's screwed up, and it is with wildlife too. Every wild being in this country, if we can't make profit or money out of it, or there's not a value exchange to humans, we just kill every animal in sight. All predators are virtually being wiped out at this point. So we've got a long way to go on so many other issues, but it's really good to see where we have had success on this area when it comes to hunting. And there's so much of that goes down to monitors and SABs and those on the ground actually filming this. Without those people on the ground producing the evidence, we're not able to make any of these animations. So it all comes back to that, I think, we need to make that point. Right, where are we at? Second to last slide. A lot of signatures, almost 200,000 people now. We're seen as one of the leading groups within the space. MPs are coming to us frequently asking for information. We're seen as one of the leading anti-hunt organizations, which is really nice to be in that spot and make sure that we're being heard, because we ensure that the best possible things are being asked. Right, last slide so we can get some questions in. My call to action: if you're part of a group, if you run an organization, focus more energy on creating content that's entertain people through social media. Don't see it as just, I think we have an ego in the sense of feeling like if we just release shocking stuff, that because we've connected and we're empathetic people, that people consuming it too surely must just get it, and they will scroll and stop their day and watch the hound thing and be like, isn't that awful? I'm going to sign up and become an anti-hunt activist, or seeing slaughterhouse footage and then immediately are going to just get it. But that's not why people are on social media. We need to produce more entertaining visual storytelling pieces like these that are shareable, that's going to get out of the echo chamber. We need to break out of the confined animal rights space that I think a lot of the content on social media is kept to. Right, any questions?
Everyone who's submitted them and voted. To reach a wider audience, would you ever consider creating an animated film suitable to submit to film festivals or streaming platforms?
Yeah, we have thought about that. I mean, a couple of our films are on Waterbear, the platform. I guess the problem is the length of them. They're so tailored towards portrait, 60-second reel format that probably they'd be considered just not long enough for film festivals for it to work. I assume we've not looked into it too much. I'm a very anti-corporate, wanky character, so the feeling of going to award-style screenings I don't like. Maybe I need to look into it.
This person says, these animations are amazing. If it's not too cheapy, how much do they cost?
I'll tell you all. How much can I say? I can tell you a good, decent wage for a person in a year. That sounds annoying. I'll be honest. The first Trail of Lies animation cost us about 12 grand to make, which, based on how many emails we got and the impact it had, is very, very good value, I think. And now we're at a point where you can figure out if we're doing 12 a year, and it took 3 months to do the Trail of Lies one, you can figure it out if you're really keen to know from that, really. But yeah, the value's pretty good. I owe a lot to Ben, the animator. He works remote in New Zealand. It's a shame he can't be here today to speak about what he does, but he's amazing. I'm very lucky to find him. He does all of it, the soundscaping, drawing. He makes the models. He's the most talented person, and I'm trying to cling on to him before he leaves. I think also I'm doing this as a pitch for him in the sense of I'd love to see him do work for other groups in our space and for animal agriculture organizations. I don't want to be selfish and just hold him. I'm happy for him to flourish and do stuff for other groups too, in all honesty, because I feel frustrated that there's not things like this being made within the broader animal agriculture movement. But yeah. That is him. No.
The next question: generative AI, good or bad?
I'll be honest, I use AI personally for a lot of my own work in the sense of the arty space. I don't think it's anywhere near ready or there. I've trialed a lot with the current offerings that AI have out there. I'm forgetting the name of the main one now. I thought it was a bit shit. I didn't think it was that great. But I'd be Mid-Journey. That's the one. I thought it was useless. I gave it some prompts to produce stuff of this sort of level. I think we're probably still a few years out. I probably would be open to it at a certain point in time, perhaps. But the environmental side of things bothers me quite a bit. The more I read into it, that thing of I don't know if it feels right being an animal rights group that should really be caring about the planet and then also using AI too much. It's a difficult one. Sadly,
this is all we have time for. We have two options now where to go to. You can go to lunch, or we the three are doing a big announcement in the International Suite, the main room. But also, thank you so much, Rob. That's
no worries. Thank you.